I'd like to welcome the members of the Merseyside Residents Association.
This proposed solar complex is a huge site. It's 37 hectares, and that's equivalent to 67 acres. Or in layman's terms, it could be described as 38 football pitches, which, as you can imagine, is absolutely huge. If approved, it's a foot in the door on Wirral for Chint Solar, a Chinese multinational company that's got absolutely no local connections. It does have operations in Europe, but now it's branching out further and into the UK.
Thank you for your question. I agree with you. I think Medicine is a vibrant community and they know their own mind best. And that community is more than able to hold
people who are accountable. It's no good us holding a meeting. We need you who are accountable to us to be there and tell us what you will do.
Welcome to today's rally. Sefton Residents Association, part of the National Residents Association, and the rally for today is about the site which is proposed for a data centre just here, Bridle Road in Boodle.
We do need the community on site to take this forward. We can be the signpost for these people and to explain what the agenda is, what their part is to play in it. But that's what it's all about. The National Residents Association, the Sefton Residents Association, is here to represent the interests of the residents of the community. We need to take the power back, and that's really what it's about. And by doing this today, it's a step in that direction that we need to take.
We've got with us here Paul, Stephen and Maria, and they've been doing a sterling job at battling several issues really in Merseyside, and we're going to sort of be taking each issue one by one. We've got the Wirral solar farm, and most people are battling solar farms in this country at the moment. We've got a real problem with solar farms and wind farms going up on our farmland, taking away very valuable arable and livestock land, and it's really challenging. So we've got that, and we've got the HMOs, which is the houses of multiple occupation, and what's going on with those, and that's linked in really to what's happening with the migrant situation in the UK. And then we've got the issue of data centres, which is a real issue because they're quite dangerous. And also, without those data centres, they can't bring in digital ID because they can't store the data. So if you can oppose them, then we're actually helping to stop digital ID. So that's a kind of overview of it. So I'm going to start now with Stephen. And Steve, you're going to talk about the solar farms?
Maybe Paul.
That's me.
Oh, Paul's going to start with the solar farms. Sorry about that. Right, let's start with the solar farms. Paul.
Yeah. Do you want me to just, do you want to ask me anything first? Or
Yeah, well, apparently you've got this big proposed Chinese solar installation in the Wirral. So
right.
tell me, describe the area and what really the characteristics that make you feel that this application wouldn't be in keeping with the area and how you're challenging it.
Okay. Well, it's going to be based in the village of Thurston in West Wirral, and this is on the banks of the River Dee, and it's one of the most gorgeous and scenic areas of Wirral. It's actually a place of outstanding natural beauty. It's a very prosperous and affluent area, and to give you an idea of that, the former Liverpool football manager Rafa Benitez chose this area as a place to live back in the early 2000s. He had a mansion in neighbouring Cardin, overlooking the River Dee and across the Welsh mountains. But in West Wirral, residents on average live for 10 years longer than their counterparts in the east of Wirral because there's so many more social advantages and a better standard of life. But as far as the landscape goes, it's a wonderful ancient landscape. And largely it hasn't changed for centuries. As I say, this greenbelt land is set on the banks of the River Dee estuary.
Beautiful countryside, yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. And on a clear day, the area is bathed in the light of the setting sun to the west. Absolutely gorgeous. And it's a popular area for out of town visitors. The Wirral Country Park is just half a mile away, and that's very popular and open for camping and fishing throughout the year. So that sort of sets the scene.
So it's amazing that people live longer because of this landscape, I expect, with, you know, being in nature and all
That's
that
right, yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the sort of place where you will live longer, you know, very different to the east of Wirral, which is looks across to Liverpool sort of thing. Yeah.
So they're proposing to destroy part of this landscape. How big is this solar farm that they're proposing?
It's actually electrically, it's going to be 27 megawatts. Sorry, where are we? No, it's 26 megawatts, but in hectares, it's 27 hectares.
Right.
And in sort of layman's terms, that's 38 football pitches. So it's by no means the biggest one in the country, but it's certainly getting there. It's certainly
and it is
quite
in a place of outstanding beauty as well, and probably taking up. Is it taking up farmland? Is what's it?
It is. It's going to be on. It's going to be on about 5 or 6 very large fields, you know, and this land, it's an unwanted intrusion, really, because it would be set in between 2 conservation areas very nearby, Thurston to the east and Caldey to the west, and visually the solar complex would not at all be in keeping, you know, with the look of the many listed buildings in this area, because we've got Thurston Hall and we've got the Church of St Bartholomew's, and they're both Grade 2 listed buildings. They're in the immediate vicinity of this solar farm and can be traced back to the 12th and 14th centuries respectively. And I could talk about the ecology as well, if you like, Sandy.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. Well, the River Dee estuary is a protected SSSI or site of special scientific interest, and migratory birds frequent the area all year round. We've got shelduck, sheldrake, black-tailed godwits, pintail, widgeon and curlew. And October to December is the busiest time of the year for migrating birds. And then down on the ground, we've got protected great crested newts are known to live actually on this farmland where the solar,
None of
proposed.
it makes sense, does it? I mean, they go on about biodiversity, and then they bang up these, you know, in the name of climate change.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
And I've actually spotted something in regard to these great crested newts, which I'll tell you about. So these great crested newts, they're known to live on this land, and they breed in the many small ponds that are found in the area. And as you know, this has been going on for hundreds of years, possibly millennia, with no disruptions. So they're really settled in their habitats, and the introduction of a huge solar complex could drive these creatures away from the area. And with regard to that, I've read the scoping report that Chint Solar have provided to the council, and they have mentioned that there are great crested newts there. But what they've omitted to mention is any the way they're going to deal with them, you know, because what happens if they find a great crested newt while they're constructing this thing? All work has to stop immediately. And they've also, around the whole perimeter of the site, they've got to install a plastic barrier, which is about 1 foot tall. And it's flat on the inside, and then it's sort of sloping on the outside, so the newts can't climb up, you know, the inside. So that's got to go all the way around the outside of it, but there's no mention of that inside the scoping report, which is 112 pages long and mentions a hell of a lot more, you know. You know,
it is so. I mean, the thing is that particularly in the UK, we're being hit with all of this stuff, because in other countries, for instance, Italy, Spain, other countries, they're not allowed to put these panels on the ground. They're told they can put them on shopping centres, they can put them on big big sort of malls and all sorts of things, and factories. They can put the solar panels on buildings, but they are not allowed to put them on the ground, because certainly to take farmland away, which is really interesting that it's only the UK where we're having this forced on us. Why aren't
And
they?
isn't it funny, because it rains more here than any of the places you've just mentioned, you know,
And
so
I
it doesn't
think
make sense at all.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, isn't it? And we're being hit with so many things, so much nonsense that we've got to. It's almost like playing whack-a-mole. We're just battling this, that, and the other. And I think this podcast hopefully will show that we, you know, what we're all dealing with as human beings in the UK, because also these things, these solar panels are toxic. So if, for instance, there's a hailstone, storm, which we've had recently, that breaks them, all those toxins leach into the land, and your newts and your birds, they're gone. And
And
also,
the other thing is the trustworthiness of the organisations, because if they're not installed correctly, the same thing happens. You know, they can break down.
it's cheap Chinese stuff. I mean, is it actually a Chinese company that's doing this?
It is. They were set up in about the 1980s, I think, and they've spread. You know, they've spread across into Europe, and they've got about 4 more propositions in this country.
Yeah. No, it is outrageous, because if it leaches into the land, it also takes the land out of production for 30 years.
That's right.
And that's a real problem.
That's right.
It's outrageous, really. So what kind of support have you got in the local area for this campaign against these panels?
Well, we held an outreach day in West Kirby on the 10th of January this year related to this. And we gave out 300 solar complex leaflets very quickly. And we held interviews with several members of the public. And I'd say 99% of these supported us wholeheartedly, you know, very strong support we got.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And as it goes on, and as the planning application is made, if it's made, that is when it'll really start getting interesting, because we're getting people to object, you know. We've got the information ready to get out there with it. We've got slips, and on these slips we've got links that people can follow to go to the council, to go to the planning portal, and to put their complaints in. And then we'll be putting QR codes on these leaflets, so that people can come to our website and then find what to say. You know, all the advice will be there for them to make a very detailed objection. So that's all in hand. And I've got to say that as far as support goes, we've got councillors as well. We've got Councillor Jeff Green, who's the leader of the local Conservative Party. You know, he's expressed his reluctance towards it, and along with his 2 local councillor colleagues. And then we've got another 6 from neighbouring wards, and they're opposing it as well. So that's about 9 altogether. 14 of the councillors on Wirral are Green councillors. And I spoke to one of these back in December, and she said she was dead against it. You know, I don't know about her colleagues, because you can't really say, because of the climate change aspect of it comes in, and you don't know how objective they're going to be when that comes in, you know. So
yeah, I mean, isn't it mad, honestly? And what I don't know whether I've mentioned it before, what you've done is you've formed a residents' association to battle all these different issues. And as a body of people, do you think you have more clout within the council if you're all united in a residents' association? Because residents' association, it sounds a bit boring, but actually it has huge power, doesn't it?
it's great, because we back ourselves up when we're out there speaking to the public. We wear yellow vests, and we wear a lanyard with a, you know, an official name on it, and a photo and all this. And it's got our little crest on it, a Wirral Residents Association crest on there. So, and people look at you and they respect you for that, you know. So that's great.
So it really does galvanize people together. The councils tend to take you more seriously, instead of it being individuals that they can target. They can be really horrible to individuals.
We've had a little bit of success, you know, Sandy, because we did get an investigation mounted on other issues. So we're making a little bit of progress as we go along. It's very slow, as Stephen or Maria will confirm. It's very slow progress, but we are slowly getting there. Yeah.
So how detailed are this company's submissions to the council? Have they put detailed?
I've got quite a lot to say on this this one, yeah. Very comprehensive. Chint Solar have employed an Edinburgh-based consultancy firm to make a very, very professional application to Wirral Council. And this is the scoping request, and it's over 100 pages long. And it contains, I've read it, that's how sad I am, and it contains all the required information.
Someone has to.
Yeah, yes, dead right. I'm glad it did, because I found a few howlers in there, but it covers ecology, archaeology, cultural heritage, historic environment record, landscape and visual impact assessment, geology, hydrology, flood risk and soil assessments. So as you can see, it's very comprehensive, and it also describes the construction phase, and it gives you a big long list and description of the equipment that's going to be installed on the site. So inverters, panels, 33 kV cable, a substation, and all that sort of thing. So they must have employed professionals, scientists and planners in order to make a very detailed and polished case to Wirral Council. But like I said, there are two very important omissions. The first one I told you about with regard to the great crested newts, but the other one is there's no reference to battery energy storage systems. Okay. The problem there is, if this thing is going to function correctly, it needs to be able to store electricity to release it at times of peak demand, in the evening. So if it hasn't got battery energy storage systems, all it can do is create power there and then and just supply it there and then. None of them do that. So I
because
think
when the wind isn't the sun isn't shining, sorry, they don't produce anything. So
well, yeah, they do when it's light, they do.
yeah.
But if it's sunny, then it produces more electricity.
Yeah.
If it's just sort of dull day, then it produces a lot less. That's the way it works,
So
But,
these battery energy storage things, that is so that they can store it for when it's dark, or
yeah, and so this one would need 12 shipping container size banks of batteries. You know what a shipping container looks like.
Yeah,
it would need 12 of them on this site,
goodness.
which would be a horrible visual.
Not only is it visually awful, but those battery energy storage facilities are very dangerous, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Burst into flames very quickly.
They can, yeah, and they can go into thermal runaway, which means once one battery's on fire, all the rest come out in sympathy, and there's a huge blaze. And the problem with that is when the fire brigade turn up, and they're only just starting to get to grips with these things. They're training up on how to deal with them. But if you chuck water on it, it makes it worse. It makes it short circuit. So
there was one in Liverpool, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yes. When was that?
About 2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
And it took days. Was it days to put out, or?
56 hours, I think it was, with 2.5 days. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Right. That's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
But it's so dangerous. Plus, the other thing attached to that is it gives off toxic carbon monoxide and other toxic gases, and people in the area would have to get inside and shut the windows, for 2 days. It's just, and what I was going to say is, I think they've omitted to mention this because of that, And when the planning application is made and councillors look at it, they're non-specialised and they won't know about this sort of thing, unless they're really dedicated and know what they're doing. Most of them will just turn up and tick boxes, and they won't sort of ask the right questions that need to be asked, So,
gosh, it's awful. This technology is so toxic, and do we need it? No, we don't, because renewable energy doesn't work. It doesn't actually fulfill any part of the grid. That's the thing, is that they've literally stopped all the things that do create energy, and this tiny slither of renewable energy, if you look at the pie chart of the whole grid, it's a tiny piece of it. And if they're putting all their money into developing it at great cost to we the taxpayer, as well as our bills going up, it's outrageous. getting rid of coal and gas and everything else. And this is their whole thing, isn't it? To get rid of what is really productive and what really works for our economy, and replacing it with something that doesn't work, that isn't really fit for purpose and is toxic. Crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the way the world has worked up until now, as far as I'm concerned, it's been fine. It just needs fine tuning, really.
Yeah.
I just don't agree with the wind or the solar or any other of the alternative energies, really. They don't stand up for me, and the finances don't stack up either. I don't get it.
No, I mean, I honestly do believe it's a way to destroy the economy and keep us cold, and and also to destroy our farmland. So it's keeping us cold, hungry, and poor.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't see that it serves any other purpose, and that's the problem. So how will you be encouraging the public to object to this planning?
Well, by paying visits to the local area, like we did in early January, the response we got was absolutely fantastic. We did a video, it's about 15 minutes long, and we did interviews with people on site. They were all very positive, very supportive. And when we finished there, we went out to the location itself, just to give the public an idea of what it looks like, how beautiful it is, and we've put that video out on YouTube, and it's on the Wirral Residents Association website. So we're getting that information out to the public, so they can see what's going on now.
Fantastic. And hopefully this will embolden other people to form residents associations. I mean, I know we're forming right now where I live, and there are several across the country, isn't there? Isn't Burnley one? And there's quite a few that are popping up.
Yeah. You're up in Scotland, far north of Scotland, all the way down to Land's End, down to Cornwall. So we could do with a few more, got to be honest. But we're doing what we can to try and encourage the formation of as many as possible. I work for the Light newspaper as a news researcher.
Oh, fantastic!
And I've been, as part of that, as a little sideline, I've been collecting information on data centers, solar farms, facial recognition, 5G, wind turbines. I can't think of them all right now, but I've been collecting news articles on these. With the intention in the future, as we get new residents associations forming, they can look at this information I've gathered and find their area and read about what's going on. So that's going on at the moment. We just need to get more groups forming.
Lovely. Well, you've really, you've set it out now. We've got Stephen and Maria here. Have you got any more to say about this particular issue, the solar farms?
Yeah, it's great to see the work that Paul's doing with the team over there. Completely new topic for the Residents Association, very diverse, and we're addressing all of the issues that are being forced upon our boroughs by central government, really. And clearly the local councils are not doing enough to represent the interests of the residents. So we're taking it into our own hands. We're really just a bunch of local residents using a bit of initiative and a bit of will, and really just making the voices heard for our communities, because nobody else is doing it for us. So we've just got to do it ourselves.
On our own, really. No one's going to do it.
I mean, as well, I think the problem is that on Merseyside, most of the councils are Labour led, and so they just dance to the tune that the Labour government tell them to dance to, and they make it quite clear that they're not concerned about the residents. But I think a solar farm of that size, it beggars belief that they could just impose something like that without any consultation whatsoever with these people.
And this is a common theme, isn't it, Maria, that we're seeing there? Everything is being imposed.
It is.
Local communities having no say in this. And when we see this happening, we know something's wrong. We know it's linked to a wider agenda, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's happening in most spheres of our lives. You know, that we're just literally being the legislation's going through Parliament that we don't agree with, but it's happening all over. And I'm so pleased, because you know what I love about you up in Liverpool is that you don't take any nonsense, and you're taking it into your own hands. And I've covered some of your meetings on when I was with UK Column, and you really, and I saw that wonderful thing where all the council walked out because they couldn't cope with the questions. It was brilliant. You really, really had them over a barrel, and that's what I love about you. And if every single area were to be able to do what you've done, I think that we'd sort a lot of this out. And I really take my hat off to all of you, because
it's funny, you know, Sandy, sorry to interrupt, but it's funny because the government often target Liverpool. They think if we can break Liverpool, we can break everywhere else.
There you go. Yeah. You see, we're far too polite down here, and we've got to stop it. We've got to be more Merseyside. That's what I think. You should get some merch. Be more Merseyside. Yeah. I think that would be really good. So listen, now I think we could move on now. I think Maria's got a lot to say about HMOs, because this is another thing that you've had a bit of success with, isn't it? These are houses of multiple occupancy. Tell me about what the issue is, Maria, and what you're doing.
Right. So before the Merseyside Residents Association was set up, a group of us for a year or so prior to that have been attending the Sefton Council meetings and raising concerns. And then the videos were getting out there, which you've seen, Sandy. So we then, in July last year, so we'd already been going our little group for about a year or so. And at that point, we were called Sefton Residents Against Agenda 2030. Then we heard about the National Residents Association, and the Merseyside Residents Association was set up last summer, and we became the Sefton branch of the Merseyside Residents Association. So at that point, we did some leaflet drops and some social media canvassing and said we wanted to hold public meetings about not just HMOs. What we said to the residents was, please come together. Together, we've all got lots of concerns about how the council's failing us. So we should all have a meeting and decide what we can actually do about it. So it wasn't a meeting per se about HMOs. So we held those meetings on a Tuesday evening in a local pub. But it became very, very clear that the main topic at that time was HMOs and hotels, asylum hotels. And people were very, very concerned about the safety of their women and children, because at that time we had had a couple of very serious incidents with a guy from one of the HMOs on a Saturday morning in our local shopping centre, walking around swinging two zombie knives around. It was just shocking. He was arrested outside an activity centre where little girls were dancing that morning. The echoes of the Southport incident were quite chilling. And another one where three men in an HMO were arrested because one of them was stabbed by another one. There was a litany of these sorts of incidents. So people were very concerned. So when they came to our meetings, that is the biggest concern that they had at that point, the HMOs. So we said, right, well, what we need to do is we need to get onto Sefton Council. We need them to start listening to us. And if we all band together, if there are so many of us, then they will have to start listening. So we were whipping up quite a lot of public support for these meetings. And then in August, I got a phone call from the landlady of that pub saying that she'd had a complaint that we were to have a right-wing speaker on. Well, we weren't, but that's irrelevant anyway. As far as I'm aware, it's not against the law to be right-wing, but we weren't having a right-wing speaker on. So she said,
they try and if you've got any issue with migrant hotels or whatever, that's the label that they
so Merseyside police have got involved with this, haven't they, Maria? And they made the approach to the landlady essentially. And that was further to the council meeting we'd attended, wasn't it? And you put the question directly about the safety aspect.
But I think the thing is that, so I said we didn't have a right-wing speaker on. So she said, okay, that's fine. And then, so still have your meeting. And then a couple of hours later, she rang me back and said, the Merseyside Police Licensing Unit had been onto her brewery. Her brewery got onto her to say that they didn't want our group meeting. And she was to cancel our meetings because of what the Merseyside Police had said. So we then arranged with another pub, and we publicised that on social media to say, here, we're meeting here now. And the day before we were to have our first meeting there, again, Merseyside Police got on to the licensee, to the landlady of that pub, and also said to her, this group causes a problem with community cohesion. So she had to cancel us, and she didn't want to, but she'd been told her licence was at stake. So we then referred that to the Free Speech Union, who went to Merseyside Police, and Merseyside Police astoundingly said, no, we didn't say anything like that. That was nothing to do with us. We really didn't do anything. We really didn't. So we then submitted a SAR to the Free Speech Association, a subject access request, to ask for all the communications around this. And now, so that was back in September that we submitted that. We're now in February, and despite the Free Speech Union persistently asking the police to fulfill this subject access request, they still have not done so. And that means that our meetings now have not resumed, which is a huge problem, I feel, for democracy. And you know, people are not being allowed to speak, and it's absolutely astounding that this is happening. But it's astounding that the police would deny that they had any involvement in this. Absolutely shocking.
But ironically, in parallel with that, Maria, then we started to follow the process with regards to Fulwood Way, one of the applications that it was in for an HMO. And given the amount of public pressure that was built, it was like a tidal wave from the meetings that we were running. One of the local councillors did actually get involved, didn't he, in the end?
He did. So Joe, so the last, which was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, the Fulwood Way one? Now, what we should say is, HMOs at that time were just waved through by the council. They've been told by the government, if someone wants to have an HMO, just let them go through, no planning permission required. However, because of this tidal wave of opposition that they were receiving, and of course the May elections, they decided we put an Article 4 in Sefton, which means that an HMO could not be granted unless planning permission was given. So from then on, fairly recently, HMOs now have to have planning permission. And everybody thought that an Article 4 was the magic bullet, the silver bullet. But of course, we know it isn't, because of a very, very flawed and biased planning process, which just waves them through. So Fulwood Way was one of the first, really, I suppose, to go through this planning process. And we looked at the planning report, which said there are no problems with this, there are no problems with community cohesion, despite the fact that it mentioned that 500 residents, well, this is it, 500 residents had signed a petition to say we don't want this here, we've got enough HMOs here. So this report, very disingenuous to say the least, said there's no problems with no evidence of problems with community cohesion, despite the fact that they'd said there was this petition. And there were no other HMOs in the vicinity, which was a lie. That was just a downright lie. So this councillor, good on him, he's the only one who has put his head above the parapet, and is a Labour councillor. And he went and spoke for 5 minutes on a litany of crimes in that area. And let me just tell you what he quoted. He quoted,
this is interesting, isn't it? Because this is what they like want you to hear. Yeah,
exactly. So he quoted, so this report didn't mention any of this. It just said, yeah, it's fine, pass it through, we recommend acceptance. So then Joe stood up and said, this was on the 14th of January, he said there were over he'd got his statistics from Merseyside Police. He said in his ward alone, St Oswald's ward, so one ward, over 600 violent and sexual offences in the previous 12 months, nearly 200 public order offences, over 150 antisocial behaviour offences, references to serious knife-related incidents involving HMOs, evidence of exceptionally high HMO concentration in his ward compared with other wards, concerns regarding fear of crime, safeguarding risk and community cohesion. And a direct challenge was made by this councillor at the meeting, asking why none of this police data was obtained and none of this had been included in the report at all. And we were at the meeting and you could see the councillors absolutely astonished at the report that they'd read as opposed to the facts of the matter. It was shocking. And they unanimously rejected that HMO on the basis of Joe's testimony, Councillor Johnson's testimony. If Councillor Johnson had not got involved in that, those planning committee members would have waved that through, as they have done in all of the previous applications. And this is what concerns us. What concerns me is that the veracity of that report is very, very doubtful. And we're going to submit a letter to the Sefton Council Planning, quoting why we think that that report was so very flawed. But more importantly, any other previous reports on other HMOs will have just been waved through because they haven't had the benefit of councillor involvement. And of course, prior to the Article 4, which is fairly recently, all of the HMOs were just given permission because there was no planning application.
They were just pushing them through.
It came under permitted development rights previous to Article 4.
And it's just astonishing that they have so little concern for the residents, because the residents are concerned that these men are they've got no documents, they're totally unvetted, undocumented. We have no idea how old they are, what their previous record is, where they're from. We have no idea about these people. It's shocking.
I mean, I this is the argument I've always had when people say, oh, you're being racist, challenging this. I say, do you know, we in this country have been so tolerant of integration, for years and years and years, but this is too fast and the volume is too big, and we don't, and they are illegal. And this is what really gets to me, is that people immediately want to stamp you with the racism label, and it's not true. It's genuine concern for genuine problems. And I don't buy it anymore. And I think what you've done is amazing, because if the residents of Essex with the Bell Hotel went through that process, they and all sorts of other HMOs and hotels, they wouldn't have this problem. And you've kind of made a blueprint for all of that in order to challenge it, haven't you? I mean, it's brilliant. I will actually include all the links that you got at the end, for this when it goes out, because it's so important that people know that they have got the power to challenge things and get things done. It's awful that we have to do that, but we have to. We are fighting for the freedom of our country and the freedom of speech and the freedom of our liberty.
Absolutely, Sandi. And they've been very well documented, the whole process right through, with the help of TPR Liverpool on YouTube. They've made recordings of the council meetings that we've been attending. So a very good record of what's been said and what's done there. And it was heartbreaking to listen to one of these stories of one of the residents at that meeting, at the planning meeting, just in January there, the experiences she'd gone through, and other residents and other neighbours they are having to live with on a daily basis in the area.
But as well, Sandi, I think it's also important to point out that the attitude of these councillors on the whole is diabolical. We've
Mm.
got one on side, but on the whole, in the clip that you've got there, I challenged Councillor Liz Dowd, who happens to be married to Bootle MP Peter Dowd, and I challenged her to say, we have concerns, we have concerns, so why won't you arrange a public meeting and listen to our concerns? And she, in the most arrogant manner ever, said, well, the people of Netherton are very capable of having their own meeting. It beggars belief
It does.
that an official could actually make such a very stupid,
Yeah.
arrogant statement. But I think that the thing is, I think we've brought pressure to bear because we've let the residents know what's happening, and pressure's been brought to bear on that Councillor Johnson. And there's also the fact that there's the upcoming local elections in May. I think that probably makes quite a bit of difference. But I think people need to pressure their own councillors in their own wards and say, you represent us, you're paid to represent us, so start doing it now. And if enough people get onto their councillors to say, we want you to start looking after us now, okay, I think you may get a few more Councillor Johnsons, I don't know, but that's the way to do it, because they are the councils are the government's foot soldiers. Without the council doing all the dirty work for them, then the government can't succeed with these horrendous dystopian plans. We have to hassle, we have to maintain solidarity against our councils, particularly, as I say, the Labour councils, because they just, they're handmaidens for the government.
Well, do you know, I tend to think it doesn't matter whether it's Conservative, Labour, Lib Dems. I think they've all been captured by the agenda, by the WEF. They're following orders from way above. It's almost like there's a uni-party thing going on, because the Conservatives also made horrendous decisions, and have done for a long time. And so I just think that we have to look at it as an assault, no matter what government we've got in. I honestly don't think this can be solved by party politics. I think the people have got to take the action into their own hands, and
that's one very important aspect, Sandy, is because people are caught in an intergenerational left and right wing paradigm that simply doesn't exist. We're living it now. Whichever government is there, it's just agenda which is being forced upon us, whether it's left or right. The world's at a very different place now, and that really reinforces the fact that why we need to, as residents, start to make our voices heard and take our power back from within our communities. I firmly believe the solutions will come from our communities, because it looks like there's nobody coming from authority to save us.
We're on our own.
In a white horse, is that?
We're definitely on our own. Well, I think that's an absolutely brilliant summary of what you've achieved in Merseyside. I'm really amazed how you've been able to turn that one around, and let it be a beacon of light to other areas in the UK who can do this. You can do it. You've just got to organise yourselves and put together an association. You can call it whatever you like. I mean, in Glastonbury, they're calling it People of Glastonbury, I think, and it's a residents' association, but they're calling it, I don't know, because they're quite different here. They don't want to conform to the word residents or something. It's got something to do with common law. I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't matter what you call it, so long as you're a body of people getting together for the common good of the people of that area and challenging your councils on things that are clearly wrong, then brilliant. So I'm just going to move on now. I think we've got you, Stephen. Are you going to be talking about data centers?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, lovely. So this is do you know, I covered this on UK Column. I've just realised I did it. So way back in October, wasn't it? I've just had a moment. So it's a Bridal Way, Bootle, Merseyside. So tell us all about this application for a data centre and how you dealt with it.
Yeah, sure. Let me give you some of the background then. So it came to our attention through a news report, actually, that was online, and it was about the application that had been submitted for a data center in the Netherton area, again, north of Sefton. So it immediately drew our attention, and the data centers are being rolled out across the country to support the surveillance infrastructure, digital ID, the surveillance measures that have been implemented, and again, it's been forced upon us with no mandate from the people. So so we all stepped up to the mark and started to get the troops rallied, really. So the first stage was to inform the local community, because that's really important. When the local community, and when we need the numbers, that's where the numbers come from, is the local community, but they need to be informed. And when they're informed and they know it directly affects them, that's when we start to get people on board. So that's something we've learned from our experience, as Maria just outlined with the HMO issue there. So what we did is we leafleted 1,500 local homes to highlight the risks that come with the data center to the local community. And incidentally, just as a side note as well, I live not too far from where this proposed site is, and I got a leaflet through the letterbox from National Grid telling me about how to prepare for power cuts. So again, the evidence was starting to match up. Red flag. So we held an outreach you'll have seen the footage from that, in the local community, local to this site, the proposed site. It's a huge site. It's on 10 acres, 485,000 square foot facility. I think built over 3 levels. And when we talk about power shortages and the consumption that this site is taking, and as this information comes from the news article, linked to this on the online, and the data center actually consumes a 58 megawatt load. That's the power of the equipment in this data center that runs on computers. Now, if you look at it in terms of anecdotal information, we've done the equivalent calculations, and 1 megawatt is equal to 670 to 830 homes. So that's like putting a consumption load, an additional consumption load on the local infrastructure of equivalent to 48,000 new homes. So, and with no detailed information as to where that's coming from and the impact on the local community. So, nobody, there was a so-called community consultation as part of the planning application. It's something they have to do, the developer has to do. So we asked for evidence of that, and it wasn't forthcoming. So one of our group, Jean, she made a request to the chief planning officer for the information regarding this community consultation under the gunning principles, because we think that's fundamental. If you look into the gunning principles, it underpins the requirement for public consultation. That's right. From local government.
The gunning principles are really powerful, and I did do an expose of what happened in West Dulwich in London, and they got together 50,000 to challenge it in the High Court. They didn't even need to go to judicial review, and that's the beauty of the gunnings. You don't need to go to judicial review. You just challenge it under the fact that the consultation process hasn't been done with due diligence. They haven't actually done it properly, and they overturned a low traffic neighbourhood in London, and it was already in place. They managed to overturn it. Lambeth Council had to take all the infrastructure down, and they had to pay their court costs. So the whole thing was reversed. So it is really, really powerful. Do keep going.
Essential tools in the toolbox, really, for residents associations with other projects people happen to be working on around the country. So this is all the learning that we're going through, really. So obviously the risks to the community are there, and we tried to point this out with the outreach that we did. It was a great day, and really getting that message across to the communities and engaging in a positive way. It's not positive to sit in small echo chambers. It's easy to do that, but we've got to push ourselves to get out into the community and really make a meaningful engagement with the residents. We've done lots of different outreaches with digital ID in Liverpool as well. And again, you can see videos of that. It's been documented by TPR Liverpool. It's good to go back and watch that as well. And it's a good source of reference information for other groups as well around the country. So, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do these data centres, do they have battery energy storage? They must do as well.
So they can do, and in this particular one, as it's being quoted in this news article, the backup power source for this, so it's intended to run on mains power supply, of course, but the backup power supply for it is in fact 38 diesel generators to substitute the 58 megawatt load. So
environmentally friendly.
Any green credentials are completely destroyed with the prospect of 38 diesel generators firing up if there happens to be a power cut that we've been warned about to prepare for. So, yeah, as I say, alarm bells are ringing all over this, and it's not clearly being thought out, and certainly not for the good of the local community.
Yeah.
So as we're a community group and we're standing in the interests of the local residents, we're working on this actively now. And really the big one for us is the lack of consultation, the failure of the obligation under the gunning principle. So we're pushing for that now. That's the latest really avenue of attack. That's our strategy really. But the planning application is still in progress. It has been extended.
Yeah.
Reasons for that aren't entirely clear to us, but we know there was a request to extend that deadline date. So it's not yet been decided. So I can't comment on the conclusion of the planning application at this stage, but we've done as a residents group everything that we can do in the community to make sure that we hold the planning the planning department to account, because again, as previously mentioned, so many of these things are just simply being waved through at the behest of central government, and that has to stop.
Absolutely. And part of this also is that don't they need lots of water to cool them down?
Yeah, so they're saying in this case it's a closed loop water system, but again, we need more information in the plan application. It simply doesn't exist there, so we can't draw any firm conclusions.
It has to have more scrutiny, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's very general, correct, and the way the local council planning department position themselves is they say we just apply planning policy. They don't consider them to be have any technical knowledge or expertise to make any of those judgments, and they point that out. But somebody somewhere has got to be made accountable for these decisions, huge decisions that are affecting our communities, as we know.
So these data centers, I mean, so the biggest worry about them, apart from the fact they're all over our land again, taking up valuable land, and they're toxic, but they also could mean that our energy, we get outages because there's not enough energy to go around. Is that right? And the water, there'll be water shortages, will be rationed, I would imagine, because
the water consumption, the water requirements for cooling these facilities is huge. And even if it's a closed loop system, what happens with that wastewater when it's changed? Or for instance, there's lots of questions that simply are not being answered. And we're putting them to those questions to the councils. We've pushed heavily for planning objections, so we've outlined all of these risks to local residents, and we've pushed, and that's been part of our sort of campaign for this project, is to get people to get involved with the process of objecting, do the groundwork first. These are just the basic essentials, and then start asking the hard questions and really holding them account, and then again going to the planning meeting.
I think sorry, Stephen, sorry to interrupt, but I think the problem with data centres is that the public are not aware of any problems with them. The HMOs are self-evident, and the solar farms are self-evident. But for instance, this data centre is where a huge gyro bank used to be. So obviously everyone's heard of the gyro bank. So they were huge banks of computers for years and years, with hundreds of workers there. So people in that area are used to having the gyro bank there with thousands of computers, and they see a data center as simply being a continuity of what the gyro bank was. So the general public will not have a clue about any problems with data centers. They will simply think, that's good, local, it's local employment, etc., etc. And I think getting the message to the general public about data centers is possibly going to be a bit more difficult.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, that was some of the feedback actually from the outreach work that we've done, that it would bring jobs to the local community. Obviously, that was an assumption that clearly is not correct, because these data centers are simply manned by security on the gate and maybe some maintenance. These will not be staffed by anybody. They do not bring jobs to the area. So, in terms of the collateral benefit, there's none to these data centers.
They're trying to, they're trying to con us in so many ways. And you know what, I suppose really with the data centers, we need, so as Maria was saying, we need more information to get out to the people about the data centers. And you've obviously got leaflets going out and stuff. And do you think that people are beginning to engage with you more?
We do get a good response. Our online presence is quite good. We do a lot of work on the platform, social media platforms, in the local community, and they did generate some really good interest. In fact, the work that we did with the HMOs came from the communications that we did on online platforms, which I think is key. People are spending their lives online. Yeah. Let's face it.
Where can we find you at Merseyside Residents Association?
Yeah, so there's the Merseyside Residents Association website, which is we're in the final stages of putting that together, which is looking good. And also there's a Facebook group as well, so you can find us there. There's the Wirral Residents Association and the Merseyside Residents Association, but as you can see, we're in close collaboration anyway. So.
Yep.
Amazing. I don't know. I mean, obviously, all three of you, I know we've covered quite a lot, and I think it's probably, we've been over an hour now. So is there anything else you'd like to add? Because I think it's really amazing what you're doing. I'm absolutely blown away with what you're doing. And you're a model for, you're a beacon of light, as I said earlier, for everybody else in the UK to do the same. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would say, from the outset, really, when I learned about National Residents Association, this is a good opportunity. So many groups I've seen over the years, the course of the last 5 years, are really burning up a lot of energy, starting up their own local groups, working on certain sort of different specific topics. But the National Residents Association really covers everything that is impacting us with regards to Agenda 2030. All of the work is done there. So you don't have to reinvent a wheel, creating leaflets, flyers, information. Really use the standard format, and that takes really all the hard work for local groups setting up. We'll have all been there before at some stage. We can share the learning, but also it's important that the publicity that we're putting out into the public domain, it's all there. So it's done for you,
It's absolutely amazing what you're doing, and as you say, Agenda 2030 is in full force now. I mean, I was talking about Agenda 21 15, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, and everybody thought it was some sort of weird conspiracy theory, and I was mad. And it's turned into Agenda 2030 in 2015, and it's been rolling. And of course, COVID literally accelerated it.
Oxford 15-minute cities. We watch the infrastructure going, cameras. It's going in and right across Merseyside as well.
So are there 15-minute cities planned for Merseyside?
Well, we can see the infrastructure. It's all over. ANPR cameras at pinch points around the local area on main thoroughfares. Obviously, we can see that. We've been doing this work for 5 years now, so we can see it. But it's making the local residents aware and what that means. But it's becoming real now, isn't it? With Oxford.
Well, they've now, the Oxford and I believe Cambridge and Canterbury, they were the test beds. I think that certainly Oxford has now been made into a fully functioning city. So this is all coming, isn't it? We can see it coming, and we have to do as much as we can to oppose it. And I think you're brilliant, you lot. Thank you so much. Absolutely sterling work, I have to say.